Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here back for episode 2 of the A to Z Ambiorix game, where in the first game we went for some early aggression against Christina of Sweden, managed to take out a lot of her cities, and then just at the end of the early game episode we had made peace. So now it's time to transition into that peaceful science mid-game and see what we can do to really excel ourselves towards getting a science victory here. So my game plan at the start of the mid-game here was basically just to focus entirely on getting down campuses, building science buildings in those campuses, and then doing the same things for industrial zones and their respective buildings as well, because making sure that we get those yields up is going to be very important for making sure that we can get ahead and stay ahead in the science game. One very important thing for science games is great people, and I had the chance to recruit a great scientist here, Omar Khayyam, but I passed on him. So in the mid-game, the one that you should be looking out for is Isaac Newton. He's the one who gives you, I believe it's +2 science on all of your universities. This is really good because if you get a university in every single city and then get Isaac Newton, that obviously can add up to be, like 20 extra science per turn or something like that, depending on how many cities you have. I don't remember exactly how many I had in this game, but in general, you should be looking out for Hypatia in the early game, Isaac Newton in the mid-game, and Albert Einstein in the late game. Those are the ones that give you the extra yields in the buildings and are generally some of the best. Then I wanted to make sure that I settled the remaining cities that I had pinned out but still hadn't settled, so I built a settler in my capital. I sent them to go settle the city with the very nice +6 campus that was pinned out, and then immediately started building another settler. So whenever you're into this point in the game, you really don't want to be producing settlers for too much longer. You'd rather be building up your cities, so it's important to just settle all these as fast as you possibly can. I did also go and place the government plaza down in Västerås, so this is a district that I often forget to place down, but it has some really good bonuses, so you should be placing it down in every game, but I, for whatever reason, just forget about it all the time. Then settled that city near the +6 campus spot and also unlocked education, which unlocks the university. So as I was talking about in the Nubia game, the earlier you get down these science yield buildings, the better, because then it gives, more collective turns to be providing the science per turn bonus. The one thing here, though, is that since I did have Hermetic Order this game, I knew that I was going to get a governor title on the next turn, so I didn't want to start building any universities, because if you have universities in progress and then you get the upgrade in the Alchemical Society, it will remove all of your progress towards universities. So this goes for any of the unique buildings that you get from the secret societies. Make sure that you either have the buildings finished or you haven't started producing them yet before you do the upgrade, because otherwise it's going to get rid of all the current production that you have spent towards the other building type. We then entered into the medieval era, and we were in a golden age here, which was pretty nice. So I was able to take, honestly, none of these bonuses were particularly good for me. I think I went with pen, brush, and voice just because it gave me a little bit of extra culture, since I did have a good amount of districts here. This is a rather unfortunate one to hit a golden age in, because there wasn't really much that I could make use of out of the available bonuses. I then started to beeline towards industrialization. So as Ambiorix, someone who's going to be putting down a lot of mines and is going to have a lot of quarries, getting to Roar Valley is something that's really good, because it's going to give you extra production on all of the mines in the city of Roar Valley, as well as the percentage-based production bonus. So with Roar Valley as Ambiorix, you can get a ridiculous amount of production, which you will see as this game goes on. Then upgraded the Hermetic Order, so that way I unlocked the Alchemical Society, which is a pretty decent improvement to the university. And then, of course, kept going, putting down some campus districts, and also started producing these Alchemical Societies to give me a decent amount of extra science per turn. And of course, we also want to be working towards getting vertical integration on Magnus, which can allow you to stack factory bonuses on the city that Magnus is located in. So I just appointed Magnus with a governor title and was going to start working towards getting the vertical integration bonus. You can see that then we had some military emergencies, so there was one against me and then one against Hungary as well, and unfortunately the one that was against me was passed, so Christina and Basil both declared war on me, which was a little bit of a pain. Wasn't too worried about this though, because I had a pretty decent defensive army at this point. I then did unlock feudalism, and since I knew that I wanted to just be building up my cities a lot and just playing a fairly passive game, I ran serfdom to get the build charges, which can be really good for spamming out tile improvements. And then I finished the last settler that I was going to build in my capital and started working on an alchemical society, and of course sent that settler on their way. Started to get some combat on my border with Sweden and Samarkand here, so you can really see how strong the Gazete here is. So it gets bonus combat strength when it's fighting against units that are stronger than it. So you can see it soaks hits from 2 swordsmen and I believe the city center as well here, or maybe it was a catapult or something. And it only goes down to like half HP, which is actually insanely good. So with these guys all clumped together like this, I really wasn't worried about losing units too much. Another good mid-game tip, look out for the Mercenary Civic. So this one will unlock the policy card that allows you to get resource and gold discounts on unit upgrades. So I was just about to upgrade an archer into a crossbowman here, but by running the policy card to get the discount here, I was actually able to upgrade 2 archers into crossbowmen rather than just 1. So a little bit of an optimization tip to look out for if you're going to be upgrading units around this time. I did build the Temple of Artemis in this game as well. I don't believe it was actually that good of one in terms of providing a ton of amenities, but in general it is a very good wonder, but not one that I believe was particularly useful in this game. Since we were at war, I kind of wanted to take Samarkand as well, just because it had a spot for a pretty decent campus and a good opium as well, so I figured I would do a devotion to Hunahpu and Xbalanque. That way I would have a good hero that would be able to help me just push forward towards attacking that city. Once again with the Gezete, you can see that these things can even fight against man-at-arms and really not have that much of a problem. I'm pretty sure the man-at-arms are taking more damage by attacking me than I'm taking by getting hit, which is hilarious because that's a unit that is 2 upgrades ahead of, you know, the normal warrior class. So then I just worked my way around Samarkand, using much of the principles that we talked about in the early game, just keeping my units clumped together. And then I was just using my crossbowmen to attack the city walls here. Not something I would usually advise, but it's just the units that I happen to have in this game. Hilariously enough, Samarkand actually lost its suzerain during this war, which meant that it was no longer at war with me. But since I was already working on taking it, I just declared war on it again, so that way I could continue the siege. This would mean that I would get a lot of grievances from doing this, but I didn't really care because getting the city I figured was probably worth it at this point. I eventually got Hunahpu and Xbalanque and sent them to the front lines, where then you can really see their usefulness here. By attacking enemy units, if you kill them with Hunahpu and Xbalanque, they are converted to your side and at full HP and with full movement, which means that you basically get free units a lot of the time. It's a really strong ability and one that you can really use to your advantage to turn the tide of a war. So then at that point, it didn't take many turns to be able to just keep working down Samarkand and then eventually take it with the man-at-arms that I had stolen from them. Took a quick look at the Great People screen and saw that unfortunately Isaac Newton was already recruited. I got unlucky and was not offered him in this game. But I did see the one that increases the non-food yield benefit of happiness in your empire by 40%. This one actually can be really strong if you're able to get a lot of amenities, so I went ahead and recruited this great scientist. Then, unfortunately, there was a city-state emergency since I had just conquered Samarkand, so now I was also at war with Hungary, which meant I was at war with everybody on my continent at this point. Fortunately, though, a few turns later, the original emergency with Christina and Basil ended, so that one, at least, was not running for too long in concurrence with the city-state emergency as well. I then continued to just push for more oppidums in all of my cities, making sure I get out a lot of production, and then I also made peace with Christina, just so that way, you know, I would have one less military front to be fighting. Got my first great engineer as well for some extra production towards wonders, and this one is pretty helpful just because there's a decent number of wonders that can be very helpful for science victory, namely Mausoleum and Roar Valley, so having this great engineer was definitely helpful for making sure that I could get some of those impactful wonders for science victory. One of the other interesting things with Hunahpu and Xbalanque is that they can actually convert unique units to your side, so you can see here that I actually was able to take this Hussar from Hungary and had my very own Gaelic Hussar. I then finally put down the +6 campus. It only took me 124 turns to do it, but finally it went down so that way it could start adding to my total science yield. And since I had gotten that great person that gives me additional bonuses from happiness, I figured it would be a good game to go for the Colosseum in, just to get me plenty of amenities on a lot of my cities. So I went and I placed down an entertainment complex here in Västerås, just as a good way to plan out for building the Colosseum to give me plenty of extra amenities and hopefully keep my cities happy. Into the Renaissance era, we unfortunately were in a dark age, and I also did change my government to Merchant Republic at this point, just to be able to get some more policy card slots. So I changed some things up to give me, once again, just big focus on science yield and production in my cities as well. Then in Västerås, I just quickly bought the arena since I had plenty of gold at this point that I wasn't using, and then started to produce the Colosseum. Eventually unlocked industrialization, which meant I could start working on Roar Valley, so I was going to go for that in my capital. You can see I had it pinned out there. First, you do need to get the factory, so I kind of wish I had saved my gold at this point, so that way I could, you know, buy the factory and then immediately start working on Roar Valley. But unfortunately, I didn't have gold, so yeah, I just started producing the factory in there. And then I also used the Great Engineer to start rushing the Colosseum because, I mean, although Roar Valley is important, I knew that I was making a ton of Great Engineer points at this point in the game, so figured I would be able to get plenty more engineers than other people in the game. And then once again, I also mentioned that Mausoleum is a very important wonder for science victories, so I figured I would build that in Stockholm. So in order to build that, you do need to have a harbor district down with a lighthouse in it, so I went and placed down the harbor, so that way I would eventually be able to start building Mausoleum as well. Then a few turns later, I finished the Colosseum, which was pretty nice. It's not a wonder I built a ton, but it is a very good one, and one that you should be building in your games if you get the opportunity to. So I was pretty happy to get it in this game. And then in Stockholm, just as I had done with the Colosseum, I just used some extra gold to purchase a lighthouse and then immediately started to work on Mausoleum of Halicarnassus as well. This wonder is surprisingly not that competitive to build. The AI doesn't seem to like it that much, so you can be a little bit slow with getting it, which is kind of funny because it is a super influential wonder for going for science victory. Then after finishing the factory in the capital, I of course was able to start on Roar Valley as well. It was going to take 30 turns, which is not super fast, but also not terribly slow. And also over in this top city, man, we're really building a lot of wonders in this game, but I figured I would go for St. Basil's Cathedral because this was a pretty good tundra city in terms of having lots of tundra hills, so I went to place down St. Basil's Cathedral as well, just to kind of act as, you know, Tundra Petra to really give me some nice yields on these tiles. Then, since I had gotten vertical integration on Magnus at this point and was starting to build my factories, I went ahead and switched around my governors to put Magnus in the capital and Pingala in my second city. As the emergency ended, I made peace with Hungary, and then fortunately also did finish Mausoleum at Halicarnassus as well, so we got some very important wonders in the mid-game section here that really were helping to propel our game forward. You can see from the ribbon in the top, we weren't in first place in terms of science per turn, but we were pretty competitively up there, which made me feel pretty good. I was also able to get Suzerainship of Bologna, which is a really good scientific city-state that helps you get a ton of great people, so that was very nice. And then at this point, I just wanted to start beelining towards chemistry to make sure I get out my research labs and continue to generate some extra science per turn. And then for the rest of the mid-game, it was basically just more of the same in terms of the passive game, getting out plenty of oppiedoms, using builders to build plenty of tile improvements. You can see I had this really nice farm grouping that was right near the capital that had plenty of 5 food tiles, which was really strong for getting the high population in the capital. And I was just generating a ton of great people from being the suzerain of Bologna. So I was getting great scientists, I was getting great engineers, and I was getting great merchants, all which were pretty helpful. And since I was on the Wonder Spam train, since I had a lot of production in my cities, I figured I would go ahead and try to build Kilwa as well. I also did get Leonardo da Vinci, who is a very good, great engineer. It gets you +3 culture on your workshops, and since I had Mausoleum, that means I can use him twice, which allows me to get +6 culture yield on all of my workshops, which makes them a building that provides +3 production and then +6 culture as well, which is really, really good. And then to close out the mid-game, I finished Roar Valley, which meant that I was going to get a ton of extra production in my capital and really help propel us towards a very, very competitive late game for the science victory. So thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for some more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.